At the outset, a privileged few had full rights, while many others were forced to find their own pathways to equality. Then a wave of women stood their ground. Faced with many dead ends, they drove relentlessly along narrow roads and around uncharted bends, until at long last one group's great accomplishment led them straight away to better but still uneven and unequal days. A second wave made progress, but faced many obstacles and came up short of its goal. It's been a man's world for a long time, but maybe someday we'll be able to say that equally so, it's a woman's world. A show which looks at any and all topics under the sun from a woman's point of view. Featuring Ali Naithani. Here's Ali.
Welcome to the show, and I'd like to say another welcome to Candy Pettiford.
Oh, yes.
Hello, Candy.
I am glad to be here again.
Thank you for being
I'm having a
with
good
us.
time.
Me too. It's always so good to see you.
Loving Minnesota.
Yes.
Yes.
Minnesota loves you.
Yes, all right now. Okay.
Well, we are here with a topic that I find very interesting. I am the mother of two boys, so
Yeah.
I am going to be very interested to hear about
You are.
legacy.
No, you really are.
Between women and mothers and daughters.
Mothers and
right?
daughters. Oh, yeah. Can I introduce mine?
Yes, please do so.
This is my daughter, Jamela, 34.
Yeah.
Gorgeous 34.
Yes.
And a gorgeous 14, Egypt. Yes.
Welcome to the show.
All right.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
being with us.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
And also we have with us Bonnie Watkins.
I'm just going, does everybody know that Egypt is Jamela's daughter?
She is. She's my daughter.
Hope they know that she's my granddaughter.
Yeah, they're all related.
You know?
I get
Okay.
it. Well, Bonnie Watkins, and I'd like to introduce my absent daughter. She's here in spirit, Cecilia Peace Watkins,
Okay.
named after her two grandmothers, who is 24.
Okay.
Nice.
Beautiful.
And I am Ellen Kennedy, and I'm introducing my daughter who's not here.
Yes.
Louisa Caitlin Kennedy Koljurgis, who is
Wow.
31.
Wow.
Louisa, I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Oh,
names.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's get started. So we think of
Well,
Mom's-
legacy,
Yeah.
you know, I think, you can even talk about this
Can
too,
I?
about your mother.
okay.
Leaving a legacy. My mother, I think she made me who I am today. My mother allowed me to tear up clothes. We had 13 in our family. I'm number 9 of 13. And so I had this need to want to wear, something different. I didn't want to wear the same clothes. So my mother said, yes, go ahead, you can tear up your clothes, but don't tear up anybody else's. Well, I started looking at my sisters, started looking at her things, and she said, no, just tear your things up. And my mother was the type, we would sing and go to different places and sing, and she just wouldn't allow us just to do nothing. She just kept us going.
Okay.
So she really left a legacy in my heart. What about your mom?
My mom, well, she came to this country at 16 to study nursing from
Really?
India and came to a small town in Marshfield, Wisconsin. And so,
I know where that is.
do you?
Yes.
Yeah. So at that time, it was in the late 50s. So there wasn't, there wasn't a lot in the sense of diversity. People, they would stop their cars on the streets and stare at her
Oh, my
because
gosh.
Really?
she'd be wearing a sari, and they had just never seen anyone. But they were very loving and very kind people. So when I think of my mother and the legacy, I just think of what a strong woman she
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
And I think a lot of times, in this country especially, I was born and grew up here. People think of India and they think of, well, are women strong there? And I think, well, let me tell you about my mom.
Let me
because
tell you about my mom.
She came to this country at that early age, and the resiliency and, just being with her sister in this country and standing up for herself and getting through those times. So
Wow.
I think that's the greatest legacy that she's left.
Does she still wear you said sari?
Yes.
Does she still wear that?
Yes, we do. We all wear
Wow.
saris.
So when
Yeah.
you get together as a family, you
Yes,
all put your...
absolutely.
Does some,
Weddings
I just
and-
mean to ask real quick, does some have a color meaning? If you wear a certain color, that means something, or?
Just like we would do here for certain functions, when it's appropriate to wear, you wouldn't wear bright colors, but there's no other, generally there's no other,
Okay.
differentiation between color.
Okay, good, all right. You better talk. Maybe you better talk about your mom.
Tell us about your mother,
Yeah,
Jamila.
talk about your mother.
Well, you know, the exciting thing is that I got a chance to meet my grandmother also, too, and we called her Gree.
Yes.
And I'll never forget the time that we would always go to visit her at the nursing home, and oftentimes she would, you know, be doing crossword puzzles or different things. And of course, my mom, being the person that she is, would say, sing a song, you know, for her, because she loved music. She would write music. You know, my grandmother would play music.
Yes.
And I remember this one time in particular, I sang a song for her that I wrote. And I remember how she just wept and she cried. And she said to me, you know, I am passing the mantle of the love of music to you. And I remember she gave me a beautiful brooch that had a beautiful green stone in it. And she gave that to me, and she just held my hand, and she said, I really hope that all the dreams that I've always wanted, you know, will come to pass in your life. And
It really seemed like she was actually passing the mantle. I mean,
Yeah,
was like a spiritual
it was
kind
very
of.
spiritual, yeah. It was very spiritual. And shortly after that, she died. And I just remember how special that was.
Wonderful.
But then I also remember, you know, how special it was for my mom, because she always saw a gift in me. And she did not allow me to not use that gift. And so I remember taking voice lessons at a very early age. And sometimes I would come back, because singing, people think that singing is so much fun. And it is fun. There is a work element to it, too. There is a learning element to it too. And I had very strict music teachers. At the time, I think I was taking classical music, and there would be times I'd come home and I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it wasn't an option.
No.
It just
not an
it just
option.
wasn't an option to quit. And I'm just so grateful for that, because now here it is. I can sing on the side. I can sing when I speak or when I preach or do public speaking. I can add a song to it, which makes all the
does.
difference when you are talking and speaking, because it opens people up to hear when you are able to present with song. And so, and my mom was the person where we would be at McDonald's or we'd be somewhere out, and people would be like, oh, I heard your daughter sings. And my mom would be like, sing a song right now. And so we would be in the lobby somewhere, and she'd be like, sing now, Jamila, sing now. I'd be like, no, I don't want to.
She would say, I don't want to, but after a while.
And then after a while, and then I remember one time somebody gave me like $5 or something, and my mom was like, you should give it to me, because you weren't going to sing. And just imagine if you weren't going to sing, you wouldn't get that money. And so I just am so glad now, because now when people say, you know, sing, I don't hesitate. I
the
don't
drop of
think
a hat.
I don't think about it. I'm always prepared to
Yeah.
sing something, and I'm just so grateful for that, because my mom was always writing, always creating, always tearing up something and putting something together. When we would go to the Goodwill, I'll never forget, she bought this necklace that was a case
yes, I love
of
it.
beans, different types of beans in a square casing, and it looked like a window filled with beans, different beans. And I said, Mom, I know you're not going to wear that. I
They would
know
say, that's trash.
that is-
Mother, that's trash.
That's garbage. We would go everywhere, and people were like, "Oh, that's gorgeous!" And
So tell about going to school.
and so several times in school, we were like, "Oh my goodness, my mom is coming in here," and she would have the stripes with the mismatch with the this and that, and everyone, "Oh, your mother is beautiful."
But I'm talking about the part where you and your sister said, Mom, can I wear that necklace? And I said, no, it's trash.
Right.
It's trash.
There you
Oh, they wanted it then, you know. So,
I think that was Rashida.
okay, that's you.
That
That's you. What about you, Egypt? Let's hear from you. What about did you learn from your mom?
Well, can I say something first before I say mom?
Yes.
I've got to meet my great grandmother too, Gree, when I was about, was it 7?
Yeah.
7, 8. I was about 7 or 8. I met her. Yeah, I remember her. She was really nice. She was really cool. I don't remember a lot of stuff, but I do remember her. meeting
Yeah.
her. And Candy Graham, when I went from Candy
They call me
Candy
Candy
Graham,
Graham.
yep.
Yes.
Yes, Wednesdays.
Oh, yes.
I miss our Wednesdays. When Kenny Graham used to live in Minnesota, every Wednesday night we would have family get
I'd cook
get
dinner
together.
every Wednesday night.
Yes, she would cook dinner. It would be me and my cousins over. We would just laugh and talk, eat, and
Just
do
be
homework.
goofy and just
Goofy,
oh.
goofy.
So
Well,
what,
around food.
what did that feel like for you?
It felt really good. It felt
Yeah.
like we were all getting close and we were all strong and our relationship and stuff. And then they moved away and then kind of fell apart because now me and my cousins don't really see each other anymore.
That's right.
So the only time we see each other is when Candy Graham comes in town. So
So I'm in town and
Yeah,
we're getting to
so
see
back
each other.
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
think you might be able to pull that together, though, as a strong woman yourself? Like, just
yeah,
to say,
but they live in Minneapolis and we live in St. Paul, so it's kind of
so it's a
hard.
little logistics
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But Egypt is a great cook.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
she
she's
is.
a great cook. She's a great baker, and she likes to entertain
I learned from
people.
Papa.
Yeah, you learn from
My
That's
grandfather.
my
And my
husband.
husband.
That's my
Oh,
husband.
And my mom too.
Yeah. So she loves to cook and loves to entertain and have people over. So she definitely could, start
could
this
do
up
that. She
sure
when she
could,
gets older.
yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for 10 years, Candy Graham, you did
Yeah.
that for
It was
10
12
years.
years.
It was 12.
Oh, okay, excuse me. It was 12 years that every Wednesday we knew it was. I didn't have to
Wednesday.
cook. I didn't have to think about anything. I knew the kids would be with my
Yeah.
mom.
I would say that for any grandparent, to get to know your grandchildren, and we're going to get to you because you're
Yeah.
talking about your grandchild. I would say to get to know your grandchildren, have them over one night a week and cooked all out.
With
and-
food, yeah.
Yeah,
You gotta have food.
Food is good, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And what I liked though too, Mom, is that you would create games.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
She
gonna say
would
that.
create different games with
Yes.
money or with
It was
counting
so
or
much
with
fun.
numbers or with letters, and she would have different games that she
Charades
got
or
to
whatever.
know different
Yeah.
things. And then sometimes she would say, "Well, Jamila, did you know that this was happening with Egypt or that this was
And
going
I
on?"
knew
And a lot of
everything.
stuff was being
knew everything.
revealed. And then I would be like, "Oh, okay, well I didn't know that." But from playing the games and from spending time with them in that capacity, a lot of things were being revealed. And I think it was more comfortable too telling grandmother
Oh, yeah.
than Candy Graham, excuse
Yeah,
me,
thank you very
than
much.
it was to tell myself, which is the importance of having grandparents because
Is it?
children
Yes.
are sometimes want to tell grandparents and feel more comfortable telling grandparents than they would telling their parent.
Yeah.
Well, that's on that note. I want to hear from
Yes.
this brand new
Ellen,
grandmommy.
you are a new grandmother.
I am. And I'll be visiting my little grandson in just a few days.
What's his name?
His name is Sean. Sean. My daughter is very much like me, and she did something that really acknowledged the legacy and took me totally by surprise. She majored in political science and Russian in
Did
college.
she?
And then went on to graduate school and studied international affairs at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And at graduation, the ceremony was held in the state legislature in Madison.
Well.
And her classmates chose her to give a special speech at that event. So the parents were all sitting in the gallery in the Senate, and there was my daughter on the floor of the Wisconsin Senate giving her talk. And she looked up, and there I was, and she said, "I want to thank my mother for inspiring me to learn about the world and to study these important things." Well, the tears
Yeah,
began
you just
to
broke
flow.
down.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Oh my.
And that's a gift that my mother had given to me. My mother was so curious about the world and traveled a lot. And I've done that, and I've tried to take my daughter with me when
Yes.
I could.
Yes.
And
Wonderful.
hopefully soon I can take my grandson.
There you go. There you
Which
go.
would be wonderful.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful story.
Thank you. Wow.
So very cool. What our multi-generational
Yes,
legacies are.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Wow.
What legacy are you leaving, Bonnie? Or
You all are making me miss both my mom, who's been dead for
Yes.
about 10 years, and my
Yes.
daughter, who now lives out in the state of Washington. I just want to hug them to death right this
That's right,
very minute.
that's
But
right.
so grateful for having
Yes.
those relationships. Since we're talking about mothers and daughters specifically, I just want to mention in passing, I have a son, too, who I love an enormous amount. And my husband and I worked really hard when they were little at being sort of equal parents and not doing a lot of gender roles things. So when I knew we were going to do this program, I thought, what is the difference between
Yeah.
a mother and a daughter and a
Yeah,
mother and a son? And
yeah.
the fact remains, there is a special bond.
Sure,
There's
that-
just the idea that
It
maybe
is.
she'll have kids from her own body someday, and there's just that. And I do think women still tend to notice a lot of things that men may not notice.
Yeah.
So
That's right, yes.
The things we can share are a little bit different, although I'm very, very close to my son. But I'm also remembering back in the 1970s when I was really coming to an awakening as a young feminist in those days. There was a practice that happened at a lot of women's gatherings where you would introduce yourself using your mother's name.
Oh,
you know,
really?
noticing how much we were tied to our father's names going back generations.
So mention-
And your mother's
oh.
first name to get away from the whole last name thing. So I was Pieces Bonnie in that setting. And I love being Pieces Bonnie. I've started using it again in some of my other settings. But my mother's first name was Peace because she was born right at the end on Armistice Day at the end of World War I.
Peace.
It's a pretty cool
that's
name,
appropriate.
right?
That's very
Very
appropriate.
cool.
And
Wow.
actually, so that's my daughter's middle name, and her other first name, Cecilia, is from my husband's mother, who was Slovenian and was a refugee from when the communists took over Yugoslavia. So, you know, they lived in refugee camps, and she's an incredible, strong woman, too. So I do have that heritage, even though those
Sure you
women are
do.
gone. And that, and in fact, on many sides of my family, counting the in-laws, not everybody, but quite a few people are what we used to call peaceniks. You know, people who really just say, what is it going to take to have peace in this world? And, you know, starting more wars and buying more guns doesn't seem to be working very well. So I'm really proud of that heritage. And my daughter Cecilia is very much a carrier on of that.
Right,
She keeps wanting to get arrested at various things.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
Don't get arrested
Yeah,
yet.
please.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
And now she's really working on food justice, building backyard gardens for people. in
Very
Olympia,
good. I like
Washington,
that.
low-income people who need to raise food to support themselves. So, you know, part of that whole social justice thing is really.
love it.
I do feel more and more as I get older. You know, it's so great to be part of that big chain, even as you start to lose people from one end of the chain.
Yeah.
That there is a chain
Right.
that is incredibly meaningful to me.
Well, as I heard all of your stories, it sounds like the closeness, the value. You know, you talked about Egypt just, having that consistent presence in your life. And so for those out there that maybe don't have, this understanding of the relationship or the legacy, but what else would you say about it? What would, you were saying, you gotta do these things with your grandkids.
Oh,
What else would
absolutely.
we say about the importance of this? I think in today's world where we're so busy and running all the time, but when we slow down and remember these relationships, wow, there's a lot of emotion, frankly, as we're talking about it.
There's something that I find myself doing often. My mother, too, like yours, is no longer living. I think in a certain situation, what would my mother have decided to do?
Oh, yeah.
You do that, too?
Or I love that phrase, my mama didn't raise me to be
Yeah.
a wimp.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, my
Right.
mom didn't raise me to
Yeah.
be a
That's right.
bystander.
Exactly.
Yeah, right,
Exactly.
right.
So that they are there with us in so many ways.
They
Oh,
really
yes.
are.
Well, what I realized about this life is that it's very short.
Yes.
And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that time is so precious.
It is.
And all we have is that beginning date, that dash in between, and that ending date when we celebrate the ending of someone's life.
Yes, yes.
And all we have then is the stories,
The dash.
the relationships
Yes,
that we
yes.
built, the memories,
The
that we
memories,
built,
oh.
the person that they were. And I think the what's so important about this building these relationships is that that's what will keep you in the times
absolutely.
when you miss them. That's what will keep you when you're able to tell your daughter or your granddaughter or your grandchildren, this is who my mom was.
This is, yeah.
This is who she was. This is what she was all about. This is why I'm inspiring. This is why I choose to live the life I do, because of peace and because of those who have gone before us. And I think my mom says it so well, is that behind every good woman
Behind every good woman
is
I-
the woman who came
before
before her.
us. Yes.
And,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think that's so true,
It
because
is.
if you when you do leave this world, which we all will,
Yes.
having the stories, having the legacy, having the memories, will be like the blanket that will keep you.
And they're rich. They're priceless.
It is
I mean,
priceless.
what could you, what dollar figure can you put on it? It's priceless.
Somebody once told me to make a will, and not a will leaving possessions and money, but the kind of moral legacy that we would like to leave.
I love
and
it.
to put that in the
That is
form of
powerful.
a will. And I've started doing that, just jotting down things that I want to leave behind for my son.
really matters.
and
For
my
example, give me an
daughter.
example.
Well, I want them to reflect on their own history, their family history, and to always acknowledge it. to acknowledge it with pride, the refugee stories and so on, and to live lives that will pay it forward. So
Beautiful.
think about what's really important and write it down, and then share that as the living legacy,
Now,
like a living will.
will you read that to them, or is that something that they will read on their own after you're gone?
I want to
or-
give it to them
There you go.
while I'm still here, so that they really can understand how important it is to me. Afterwards, I think then it would be treated very differently.
Okay.
But I think while I'm still here, to be able to talk to them and say, in your lifetime, if you can carry forward with these things, that would be such a blessing for me to know.
Well, I've done something which I will share with you and anyone else who may be a grandmother or time of as being a grandparent, is do a time capsule. Remember that, Egypt? Do a time capsule. Keep all their little papers, whatever they're scribbling or whatever they went to first grade. And when I left to go to Missouri, I handed them their time capsule.
You did?
Yes, all their letters when they were in first. Oh, look at that! That was funny when I was in first grade. So I would say to any grandparent, keep a time capsule. So it's something like what you're saying, and then I pass that on, and they still have their time capsule.
That's wonderful.
You know, I want to mention something. I think about people watching this show who, like women who have chosen not to have kids,
Yeah.
or people who've lost track of their family, or my son is adopted, so, you know, there's a lost connection
yes,
somewhere
yes.
there so often that. But I think people today really do have the choice of building your own family. You know, you don't need to feel like
That's
if you
right.
if you didn't ever get to meet your grandmother, you can create her in your mind. You can go find somebody and make her be your
Make
grandmother.
her, and they're willing. They're willing.
Yes.
You can make somebody
Or
be
you
your
can
kid.
find someone's children
Right,
and
you
make
just-
them your kids.
Sorry,
Isn't
I'm your
that
mom
the
now,
truth?
because I don't have a daughter nearby.
That's
right.
the village.
That is the
That's
village.
the village.
Well, it
Oh, I
is
love
rebuilding
it.
that sense of community that I think is torn apart in so many ways. It really starts with one family and
Right.
one
One family.
relationship
Right.
and
There
one
you go.
pretend mom and pretend daughter and
Yes.
aunt. I think I'm an aunt to a lot of people.
And after a while, you're not pretending.
No,
That's right.
After
but
a
it's
while,
so
you're not
easy for
pretending.
people to get flung apart. I feel like it takes that woman's,
Yeah.
you know, take a little bit of a risk, be a little bit nosy to
Right, right.
recreate family everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation.
This just went by too fast.
It did, but we're going to end on something very special here.
Yeah.
And Jamila, as you told us about your
Yes.
singing,
Yeah.
Jamila
Andy,
does sing. Yes,
ask her to
Jamila.
sing.
We're going to have a clip of Jamila singing that beautiful song. I won't say what the title is, but they'll get it when you're singing it.
All right.
Okay,
All
good, good.
Thank you again, and enjoy the clip.
Thank you.
This song is called The Eyes of Those Who've Gone Before Me. This song was written in a time in which I really was looking at life from the point of my ancestors. And I was thinking about my family, and I was thinking about my people, and I was thinking about the present day people and how people are still struggling, and how even though we've come a long way, we still have a long way to go. Please enjoy. I've come a long way. I've come a long way. These lashes on my back, and I've come a long way. My ancestors' blood is flowing through my veins, and I've come a long way. To the mothers strung out on crack, where are your babies at? I can hear the ancestors say, we did not die so you can live this way. For I've come a long way. to the men who drop their seeds and leave. Are you producing masses breed? It's your responsibility to raise your family. I can hear the ancestors moan. For I've come a long way to the homeless out on the streets. Aren't they a part of humanity? How can we turn a blind eye to thee? For I've come a long way. We march strong so you can carry the baton. It's our blood that flows through your veins. And we paid the price so you could have a better life. For I've come a long way. But we